Hey, so after hours and hours of video of American Megafauna, and I certainly didn't intend to do it in that much depth continuously, but it's hard for me to judge with that game. Like Lords of Sierra Madre, but at least I knew the pace of Sierra Madre. I've probably said everything I have to say sometime in there, but I'm going to try and capture at least some of the key thoughts that I have. First off, I like the game. I really do. I like what I've seen of this version better than what I saw of the new version, I think. But just because some things have been simplified and removed, at least in the playtest that we were given. I'm not sure how close to final that is. The things that were... There were some things that were changed for... so the majority of the changes, I think the biggest thing is the play order. In this one, the play order is ruled by something that looks a lot like Lords of the Sierra Madre. I hope I haven't lost this. Yeah, here it is. A card is turned up. Each player takes... There's a number of steps that each player can take a certain action in. In the new version, it looks like each player is going to be allowed their own turn. They can take an action, basically one of those from there. They can express a new creature, or they can play a card from their hand for a gene, or they can draw a card. Just not for a gene, for a DNA. Just all these different options. Now, I found that drawing a card was a particularly powerful option because... Oh no, it wasn't. Drawing a card was a particularly bad option. Being the guy next to the guy drawing the card was particularly powerful. Going next was particularly powerful because you got the first real opportunity to react to that card. And I believe people died off. Things happened basically at the end of the turn, at the end of each player turn. So I could go in and eat and challenge your creature in a biome and drive him out. And you don't get a chance to get away or anything like that. In a way that may be fairer than what we're seeing in this version, where each player is always stuck in a certain order. And, you know, one person is always going to be the guy who gets to go last on everything. And that's such a huge advantage. Now, there may be balancing factors with the dentition on the bidding and stuff like that, but overall, I like the way the new version flows better. It feels more like you're in it all the time. You're just doing something. You do one thing, you're done. You do one thing, you're done. That's a nice flavor for a game. This is the Lords of Sierra Madre model, where, hey, are you doing something on this? How about you? You know, each step you have to basically poll each person. Now, obviously, with a good group of gamers, that's not going to happen quite that way, but there's almost always someone who is not quite aware. And then, what do? Well, you snooze, you lose. Or, well, we'll go back and take care of it, you know. I think it's much easier when you have a clearly defined, very short turn, and you can do an action. And that, I think, is a huge advantage to the new version. What am I saying about this version, though? Well, the rules are horrible. I've never seen us. I don't know. I mean, just some of the choices are so horribly made. The coloring to differentiate everything through coloring in boxes. You know, I don't work that way. I mean, you can feed that kind of textual notation into a computer and say, okay, this is how you're going to process this, this is how you're going to process that. Putting important rules into the glossary. I mean, that's just wrong, okay? And it would be fine if it were all pure game related, but so many of these are the normal Sierra Madre, Phil Eklund, I want to give you lots of information. I love that information. It's great. It's great it's in the back and all in one place. It just shouldn't include game rules in here. It just should not. The game rules should be... You could define an event in here, but take the extra page or whatever to actually put this stuff in the rules. I think the problem was he wasn't sure where to put it in the rules, and that's kind of an issue because each step of the rules, it very clearly links it to what you're doing in that step. And I think that's great. That's how a set of rules that programs right through the turn like that, that's a fantastic idea. The problem is that it puts you in this position where, oh, where's this, where's that? You know, where do I define some key terms? Well, you don't define them in with historical or scientific information that doesn't concur with the game. Some of the components, for example, the acorns on the little cards, hard to read, hard to capture the idea. I would have had a lot more trouble with this if I hadn't played a game of this, even if it was under different roles, with the designer. You know, this is kind of the problem I had with High Frontier is if you got somebody who already knows the game teaching it to you, it's great, but the rule book does not work well in its job. And that's kind of been the case on everything, even the Lords of Sierra Madre. That there were some key new concepts to that game that weren't expressed clearly enough, I think. This one's lacking a useful short set of rules the way High Frontier has the back page. That's a problem. The map, they're talking about triangles. I'm still not sure if... I haven't looked it up, but I've been assuming the new version, which has little triangles above and below each one, I've been assuming that each biome has its own triangles, but that may not be the case in this version. It may be that they share carnivores and huskers or something. I don't know. Not entirely... Yeah, it's kind of difficult to understand what happens with these, the ice sheets. There's a lot of little rules, a lot of little things that aren't very clear, and I don't know how to really, how to express all those. I mean, it's a matter of, you're going to have to look in the, no matter who you are, I think, you're going to have to look things up in the rules to see how you do this. At least until you get really, really familiar with the game, something I never do. The little counters, you know, they're cheap components. There's going to be better ones on the new one. The box is terrible, but you know, these are self-printed, etc. And he doesn't have a lot of investors, so I guess that's a reason for not making these really ultra pretty things. But I think. Certainly, if you're more of a Eurogamer, if you're more into the game than into the simulation, you don't want this version. You want to wait on the next one. And that's out in Essen. I don't know when Essen is coming. Pretty soon, I think. Things are going to the printer for it. So now, The other side of it, though, is what if you're me? What if you're my kind of person? I can't tell you. I really can't. I don't know whether or not... like, I bought this. I'm happy with it. I'm going to feel a little bummed if there's no conversion available. But I'll live with it. You know, I'm not going to go out and buy another copy. It's hard. It would be a hard decision, though, if I had both in front of me at the same price, which one I would want. Do I want the one, if there's no conversion, do I want the one that's got a better game, or do I want the one that I think has some key issues, some key advantages? Especially, you know, in terms of new creatures. I love those little critters on the picture. I love the fact that you're restricted and you can't... In the new one, you can just spawn off new creatures any turn you like. One new creature any turn you like. On the other hand, it does make you more vulnerable when you can only have one creature. There's a lot of luck in this game. A lot of luck. There's not much that can be said about that. I mean, if you don't like a lot of luck, you're screwed. This one, because of the format, a lot of turns will drag where nothing really changed, right? So if nothing is going to change and it's your turn, what are you going to do? You're going to buy a card in the other version. In this version, nothing's changing. You don't get a chance to do anything. There's one card that comes up, and then everybody sits around and kind of says, nope, I'm not doing anything. And if there's a change, then it's worth looking. Of course, you might miss something. And somebody, you know, retentive like me may keep looking. That's part of the expense here. Compared to the other games that I've seen of this type, specifically Quirks and Toronto X on this theme, Quirks is a beautiful game. I love the little creatures and what you create with them. I'm able to imagine them with the same kind of thing with this when I start seeing birds butting heads or speedy turtles or whatever with fins on the back and chrome runners. But graphically, this doesn't compare to that. As a game, however, this is superior, as is Toronto X. And scientifically, this just blows both of them away. Toronto X is a pretty good light game. You get to roll some dice. You get to kill things off. It's kind of cute. It's got a scoring system that looks very Euro. You know, something goes here, it goes here, it gets points, it moves along. It almost feels like Da Vinci in some ways. But as a game even, I'm not thrilled with it. Something about Quirks is just so lovely that I want to take Quirks and Toronto X and make something out of it. I don't want to do that with this. I don't want to play with Quirks in this. I certainly don't want to play with Toronto X. I do want to tweak some things and tinker with some things, and I think some of those tweaks and tinkers are in the new version, to tell you the truth. And I also want to keep some of the stuff from this one. So I feel like I need the conversion, and then I need to make the changes I want. All right, cheers.